One of the ways to look at your life is consider every category kind of like a bucket. So if you can imagine, a life bucket technique is we have these different buckets or quadrants in our life. You have a health bucket, you have a relationship bucket, you have a career bucket, you have a time bucket, you have a money bucket, and you have all of these different buckets. And two things that are really important is when we want improvement in multiple buckets, it can start to feel overwhelming. And which one do I pour into first? Where do I start? And that overwhelm can paralyze us and we don't do anything. And so I want to simplify that for you today so you know where to start and how to move that energy forward. And here's the great thing, that as you focus on one of those buckets, the very cool thing that happens is actually it raises up all of them. So when you think about your different buckets in your life, your health, your relationships, your work in the world, your time, your money, freedom, each one of those is really important. And each and every one of them impacts the other. They're all connected. Usually though, we have one or two areas that we're most focused on wanting to improve. And so if you're feeling like, no, Stacey, it's all of them, I need help in every bucket, that's okay. But really leaning into, where do you have the greatest frustration? Where do you have the greatest desire? And usually at certain times of our life, one of those buckets is calling for more attention. So maybe right now you're just really frustrated with your health. And you know that now is your time to take conscious control of your mental health, your physical health. And if you don't do something soon, you're going to regret that. You're tired of being tired and fatigued and not having the energy. Maybe you're finding yourself on the verge of burnout and you just know that health bucket is calling your name, but maybe it's felt so overwhelming you don't even know where to start. Or maybe it's your relationships. You just know your relationships are on autopilot, you're feeling lonely, and you know that you really want to develop greater connection. So no right or wrong here, but just really as you're looking at the landscape of your life, paying attention to what's speaking to you, what's calling you, and we typically know that based on our frustration points. We know that because we wake up at 3 in the morning thinking about it. Pick one of those quadrants, what feels most important to you. Again, it doesn't mean that the other ones aren't important, but just by picking one, you're gonna start to move energy on that. And as you pick that area, here's what happens is we wanna know that as I focus on my health and well-being, my relationships can grow. One of the biggest fears is that if I focus on this area, the rest of them are going to suffer. And it's actually the opposite. As we start to work on self-improvement and developing ourselves, and we really start to pour energy in one of those areas, you start to feel better. And when you feel better, you do better, and it rises up all of the other quadrants. I don't know if you remember falling in love for the first time or being in a new relationship, and you wake up happier and you go to work happier, and pretty soon you get a promotion or somebody buys you coffee and it feels like nothing can go wrong. It's because you're in a different state of mind. And so know that as you pick one of those buckets, it's going to positively influence all of the others. So now that you've picked that bucket, what do you do with it? The first thing you want to start with is a vision for the results you desire. Put the how on hold. So what would greater health look like? How would you feel? What would deep, meaningful relationships look like in your life? What would waking up and loving your work in the world? So really start with the end in mind. What's the vision? What's the result that you want? And how do we get out of the overwhelm? How am I going to change this? It feels so big. Start with that vision, then start to think in terms of micro moves and break that into goals. So if it's your health you want to improve and you want to focus your energy on, just think about, what can I do today? What can I do this week? What can I do this month to move me forward? So often when we want to create transformation in our life, we feel like we have to change everything, right? I've got to clean out the cupboards and I can't have any junk food, and I've got to start drinking 10 glasses of water and walking 10,000 steps, and we take it all on at once. And while that can be wonderful, typically it's not sustainable. And so thinking in terms of more just baby steps. What's one conscious habit I can make today? What's one thing I can do different? What would it look like to just show a little more affection in your relationship today? I don't have to go change the whole relationship, but how can I make that micro move? So we start with the end in mind, having that vision, and then break it down into goals. What's my goal for this week? I'm going to walk 3 times a week. I'm going to have 1 date night with my partner. I'm going to set a coffee appointment with my friend. And sometimes those little baby moves feel like we're not doing enough. But here's the thing, if you do that enough over time, it will completely change the trajectory. So you've got these life buckets. I want you to have full spectrum success. And yes, we can have it all. And it's much easier when we start with one of those buckets and start to create that transformation. And as you create new results in that bucket, guess what? Now we go focus on another one. One of the best ways to keep that momentum going is to have some way to track your behaviors and those new habits. And that's why we have the accountability tracker. It's a simple tool to help you stay accountable to those micro moves that are going to move the needle. So make sure you download that, use it as a tool. And here's the other thing I know to be true is it is so much easier to create transformation with support. And so if you know this is your year and you would love to have some greater coaching, accountability to help you get greater clarity on your vision, keep you accountable to those action steps, go ahead and schedule a complimentary strategy session with myself or somebody from my team, and we will help you really design that vision for what it is that you would love and put some support around you and your dreams. I'm Stacey Berger. Here is to you living a life that you love.